It may be only Wednesday, but the injury reports are looking pretty lengthy with key names for both the Seahawks and Buccaneers heading into their Week 5 clash. What does that mean for this oncoming battle of attrition? We're going to be taking a deep dive here on our Wednesday edition of Locked On Seahawks.
You are Locked On Seahawks, your daily Seattle Seahawks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings, 12. This is Corbin Smith, host of the Locked On Seahawks podcast, your daily Seahawks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Glad to be joined, as always, by my co-host in crime, Rob Rang. And a special thanks to each and every one of the 12s tuning in, whether you are down in Ocean Shores, Washington, or you're listening across country from Annapolis, Maryland. We appreciate all of our everydayers. Thank you for making Locked On Seahawks your first listen 5 days a week. We greatly appreciate it. The Seahawks and Bucs kicking off their practice weeks, at least from an injury report standpoint. Lengthy injury reports coming out today. We'll be taking a deep dive into those. Plus, those injuries, how they impact the key matchups here on Matchup Wednesdays. Some fascinating ones that we're going to be watching that may or may not be impacted by injuries coming up on Sunday. Without further ado, let's get to this jam-packed episode. Now for your lead story here on our Wednesday edition of Locked On Seahawks. Even though the Seahawks are coming off of a mini bye and they had 10 days between games, or will have had 10 days between games before they play the Buccaneers on Sunday, still some lingering injuries as they return to the practice field on Wednesday. But I think it's safe to say that the Seahawks are probably feeling quite a bit better than what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are in comparison. Rob, both these injury reports for Wednesday, Seattle only has 6 players listed on the injury report, but a lot of key players and a couple names that jumped out immediately that returned to play on Thursday against the Cardinals, who were out today, in Julian Love and Devon Witherspoon, both with the same injuries they have been dealing with. Now, my understanding is that this is a case of, hey, it's Wednesday practice. They're just giving them some rest. They're not quite 100%, but they'll be good to go for Sunday. But it is one of those things to monitor because this is an explosive Buccaneers offense that's got plenty of weapons on the outside and a really solid quarterback in Baker Mayfield. You're hoping that you have your entire secondary on deck for this game. And the fact that Witherspoon and Love after this mini bye are still not quite right maybe is something that's going to create a little bit of worry for Seahawk fans.
Yeah, it should create some worry. I mean, Baker Mayfield and this offense is humming, even without Mike Evans. Chris Godwin just returned back to the field for the Buccaneers a week ago, but clearly was not his normal playmaking self. And so if Julian Love's hamstring continues to be an issue, Devon Witherspoon's knee continues to be an issue, and yes, that is very concerning. DeMarcus Lawrence also did not participate. He is dealing, of course, with a quad injury. Reserve offensive lineman Josh Jones also did not participate. He is dealing with an ankle injury. One of the good things, of course, however, is the fact that Nick Emanwori and the wide receiver Cody White both did return to practice for the Seahawks. So, as you said, Corbin, there are some reasons to be concerned about the Seahawks practice report. However, I think the Todd Bowles and Jason Licht, as head coach and general manager, respectively, of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they have a lot more things to worry about right now with a bloated injury report in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, when you look at Seattle's injury report, it looks as clean as possible compared to what Tampa Bay's looks like. Just for perspective, those of you that watch our show on YouTube, I had to create extra columns to be able to fit all of the names in that did not practice or limited for the Buccaneers. And that might not seem like that's a huge deal, but that just points to how many injuries that we are talking about. I'm surprised the Bucs even considered this a practice today. When you look at some of the big names that were non-participants, Jamel Dean, their number one corner, he's having maybe the best season of his career, but now he's dealing with a hip injury. Mike Evans, he's not going to play this week. He's dealing with a hamstring. Greg Gaines, pride of Washington's got a pectoral injury. And this is the injury that I think bears watching. Bucky Irving, their starting running back, has been in a boot this week. And the Buccaneers are not ruling him out yet, but that would seem to tell me that he's dealing with a fairly significant ankle injury or foot injury. And not having Bucky Irving would be a huge blow to this Buccaneers offense. He has become their number one runner. He's a real threat out of the backfield. And oh, by the way, Baker Mayfield did not practice today with knee and biceps injuries. Benjamin Morrison, their rookie corner, Jamel Dean's not the only one banged up. He was out with a hamstring issue. And then Sterling Shepard out with a foot problem, even limited participation-wise. Hassan Reddick with a neck injury. Levante David with a knee. This is a team that is incredibly banged up, and they've already lost a number of guys for the season on injured reserve. Kalijah Cansey, Luke Gedeke. They also lost Cody Mock, their starting guard. They've got a lot of injuries that they are dealing with. So I don't think Seahawks fans should be sitting there like, oh, man, the injury bug has really got us. Like, the Buccaneers are going into this game truly limping, especially in the offensive side of the ball with all the players that are banged up. Seattle is much healthier from that perspective. And again, my understanding is Witherspoon and Love are going to be okay. It's Wednesday. They did practice on Monday too. So it's possible those guys practiced Monday and then they took today off. I think the Seahawks should feel pretty comfortable where they're at injury-wise going into this game, especially compared to where Tampa Bay is at with a number of starters. It's not like there's a bunch of role players. We're talking starter after starter that either didn't practice or was limited on Wednesday. And from my understanding, reading, it was a walkthrough-oriented practice. So if guys are limited through that, they might as well have been out in a normal practice setting. Tampa Bay is absolutely dealing with a battle of attrition right now on their roster.
They are. That said, I do believe that the majority of those players are going to return to the field and absolutely be, playing for Tampa Bay against Seattle this Sunday. I mean, certainly Baker Mayfield, I expect him to be on the field. I like that you mentioned Bucky Irving. I think that he is a critical part of their offense. It's a similar 1-2 punch between he and Rachaad White is what the Seahawks have with Kenneth Walker III and Zach Charbonnet. If Bucky Irving is not on the field for Tampa Bay, then they are going to be losing that explosive element as a runner and as a receiver, as you mentioned, but still Rachaad White is a former starter. So I think Tampa Bay would still feel very confident that they have a quality back, should Bucky Irving not be on the field for them. As you said, Mike Evans is not going to be available for this football game, so that is hardly news. But the secondary is going to be a concern for Tampa Bay. As you mentioned, with the rookie Benjamin Morrison, a quality corner, proven starter in Jamel Dean, also is dealing with a hip injury. So again, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are kind of the walking wounded at this point. But as we talked about in yesterday's show, Corbin, this is still a team that does know how to finish, does know how to strap it up when it matters most, and it's a veteran team. And so I don't think that this is a club that necessarily has to practice, given the continuity of the coaching staff there, that they necessarily have to practice if they, and yet still be able to get onto the field. And finally, on an injury related note, I want to just kind of send some thoughts and some positive vibes to Tampa Bay. Their running back coach, Skip Peete, had a medical emergency of some type. He was brought by ambulance from the team's facility to a local hospital. So certainly wishing him well. Peete is a longtime NFL running back coach. He's been with several clubs: Cowboys, Bears, Rams, Raiders, as well as obviously Tampa Bay Buccaneers here. He is the brother of former USC quarterback, NFL quarterback Rodney Peete. And again, just kind of sending thoughts and prayers his way, because while I want the Seahawks, certainly to have success against Tampa Bay, I also want everybody to be happy and healthy as much as possible.
Yeah, that's something that everybody needs to be cognizant of here, that there are things that are bigger than football, that are bigger than the game. And so hopefully Skip is going to be doing well, and this was just a precautionary thing. And, who knows whether he's going to be available to coach this weekend or not. Right now, that's not the biggest deal. It's just making sure that he is okay. When we come back, we've got matchups to dive into. We are going to start with the Seahawks on offense going up against the Buccaneers defense. We will get to that up next here on our Wednesday edition of Locked On Seahawks. Mazda crafts cars for those who choose to do more than simply move. They follow what moves them every time they drive, and that's what makes Mazda stand out. They go beyond safety, style, and performance to deliver a driving experience that feels alive in every detail. As an athlete focuses on every detail, Mazda does the same, whether it's metallic accents to hand-stitched Napa leather. You can feel it the moment you get behind the wheel. The smooth handling, intuitive controls, and standard all-wheel drive in every crossover SUV. Whether it's a quick drive to practice or a weekend road trip, Mazda makes even everyday drives feel special. It's the small details that make the big plays. And just like there's more to every player, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. You're listening to Matchup Wednesday here on the Locked On Seahawks podcast. I'm Corbin Smith. He's Rob Rang. A special thanks to all of our valued listeners. Thank you, as always, for making Locked On Seahawks your first listen 5 days a week. We appreciate your support of the podcast. The Seahawks looking for a fourth consecutive win, including a second straight at Lumen Field when the Buccaneers come to town on Sunday afternoon. I think there's another big event happening in that same area later in the day as well. Going to be a pretty crazy weekend for sports in the Emerald City. Let's get to our key matchups. And Rob, we're going to start with the Seahawks on offense going up against the Buccaneers defense. And typically when we do these matchup Wednesday segments, it's position groups, players against players. But I think we've got to include coaches in this one when we're talking about dealing with Tampa Bay, because Todd Bowles, he is one of those mad scientists. Now, he's a different kind of mad scientist. And I would say he's a more chaotic mad scientist than what Mike Macdonald is. Mike Macdonald will blitz if he needs to. Todd Bowles is going to blitz if he doesn't need to. Like, that's just what he does. He loves sending guys from everywhere. He'll blitz slot corners. He'll blitz outside corners. He'll blitz both outside corners and the slot on the same play. He'll send engage 8 like it's his side job in a game. Like, the guy loves to send pressure, and he's been doing it for a long time at a really high level and creates a lot of chaos with exotic blitzes that put a lot of pressure, not just on the quarterback, but the offensive line with your line calls, the running backs picking up blitzes, and who's coming, who's not. Do a really good job of disguising those things. And to me, that puts the onus on Sam Darnold in this game. Your pre-snap game is going to have to be on a level in this game, because you're going to have to be prepared for anything coming from Todd Bowles. And especially with injuries, he might reach a point where he's like, you know what? I'm missing a couple corners. I'm missing a few guys up front. We're just going to send our linebackers, or we're going to be sending our slots, and we're going to make life tough for you guys, just sending guys from all over the place. That's what Todd Bowles does. He's been very successful at it in Tampa Bay, had a long run as a really good defensive coordinator in the National Football League, including the year Tampa Bay won the Super Bowl with Tom Brady. He was the coordinator on that team. To me, this is all about Sam Darnold making sure that his offensive linemen are getting the right communications in, that he is keeping tabs on who's coming, who's not, and being prepared for that, making sure his running backs know who to get. He's going to have to be on his mental game going against Todd Bowles.
Well, and everything that we've seen so far this season, Corbin, suggests that Sam Darnold is, in fact, going to be on his mental game. I mean, I've just been so impressed with the poise in which he has played to this point. Again, I was very much on the, kind of pounding the table that I thought that Sam Darnold would be an upgrade in exactly this type of a way over Geno Smith. But at the same time, he has impressed me as well. I think anybody who has been kind of a casual or neutral observer of his play has had to be impressed by just the accuracy, how quickly he is getting the ball out of his hands, how quickly he is making decisions. But you're absolutely right. Todd Bowles is going to send some exotic blitzes Sam Darnold's way, and Darnold does not have a great deal of experience going up against Todd Bowles. Fortunately for the Seahawks, Clint Kubiak, Rick Dennison, and John Benton, 3 of those veteran coaches that, of course, coached against Todd Bowles in the NFC South throughout their time with the New Orleans Saints. They do have a great deal of experience. So I do feel that Seattle is in a pretty good position. This is, of course, a home game. As we've talked about, this is coming off of the mini bye. The Seahawks have had enough time to prepare for the exotic blitzes that Todd Bowles might send his way. But it's going to be on, of course, Sam Darnold to continue to play as well as he has over the first first month of the season and prove that this is not just an early fluky kind of a start, that this is, the all-pro caliber play for real.
And I think when you're looking at position by position matchups, this is the way it's always going to be as long as big number 50 is in the middle of the trenches for Tampa Bay. Vita Vea has destroyed game plans for the Seattle Seahawks in the limited times that he has played against Seattle in his career. And I'm thinking about the game that was in Germany a few years back, and Seattle just couldn't block him. They couldn't keep him out of the backfield. He was getting after the quarterback, and Vita Vea is just one of those freak guys that he doesn't look like, although he's leaned out a little bit more this year, not quite as massive as he's been in the past, but he doesn't look like a guy that would be much of a pass rusher, and all he does is just rack up sacks for an interior defender. Had a couple of them against Philadelphia. Kind of took over that game and let the Bucs get back in it last week, and this is going to be that really tighten up your chin straps, and you better be ready to brawl type game for Gray Zabel, Jalen Sundell, and Anthony Bradford, because all three of those guys are going to get reps against Vita Vea. He moves all over the interior of the defensive line, and even without Kalijah Kancey, which those two together, Batman and Robin, were dangerous on that front line. You don't have to worry about Kancey in this game, but Vita Vea by himself is a guy that can completely obliterate game plan, stuff in the run, and creating interior pressure. Seattle's going to have to find a way to be able to prevent that from happening, whether that means that they're mixing in a lot of combo blocks and they're trying to really emphasize having an extra guy there to chip on Vita Vea, trying to mix and match some dive and trap concepts to try to get guys coming from all directions hitting him. They're going to have to do some things. He's seen everything, but they're going to have to try to make it that he gets his plays, but he doesn't take over the game, because even with all the injuries they have, if he is dominant up front, it can make it a moot point that they're missing guys at cornerback or off the edge.
No question about it. I mean, slowing down Vita Vea is the single biggest issue I think that the Seahawks have to face in this game, whether it be on offense or whether it be on defense. Look, Vita Vea is a dominant player. Longtime football fans in this area, of course, know of him. They know how successful he was for the University of Washington. The fact that he has his, running mate, Greg Gaines, a pair of former Morris Trophy Award winners, the most dominant defensive lineman in the now defunct Pac-12, or what's left of the Pac-12. But still, terrific football players. And I love the fact that you mentioned Seattle's three interior offensive linemen by name, because the player who I actually think is going to perhaps struggle the most against Vita Vea is actually the one that might surprise people, and that being the first round pick, Gray Zabel. Corbin, there's a reason why Gray Zabel played all the four exterior offensive line positions during his time at North Dakota State, because he's got more of a tackle frame. He's 6'6", he's 312 pounds. He's got 32-inch arms. That's pretty tall, and he's a little narrow around his hips. And so that is a player who typically is going to struggle against pure power. And, we were a little bit remiss in last week's, it was Tuesday matchup show in which we talked about some of the defensive linemen for the Arizona Cardinals and how they would match up against the interior of Seattle's offensive line. And we talked about guys like Darius Robinson, but we didn't mention, now I'm spacing on his name.
Dalvin Tomlinson.
Exactly. Dalvin Tomlinson, one of the strongest defensive linemen in all of the NFL. And Vita Vea is even stronger and bigger than Dalvin Tomlinson. Tomlinson was the one that actually gave Gray Zabel the most trouble against the Arizona Cardinals. So this is a matchup that I think that Seahawks fans should absolutely be watching. Gray Zabel is going to get his butt whipped at times in this football game. It's going to be critical for the Seahawks to anticipate that, use Zabel's quickness, rather than trying to match up mano and try to do some kind of like hey, I'm as big and tough as you are, because you're just simply not. Vita Vea will destroy things from the inside out. So have some quick screens, have some, get the ball on the outside to your backs, because Vita Vea is going to shut down the inside running lanes. That's exactly why the Philadelphia Eagles didn't do their tush push against Tampa Bay, because they could not. They had to kind of sprinkle in some plays off of that rather than try to run against the immovable object that is number 50.
And I think on the outside, as far as advantages that could work in Seattle's favor, because anytime they play Vita Vea, that is a concern. Even with an improved interior offensive line, to me, number 50 is the guy you always circle and say, we can't let him destroy the game plan. We cannot let him take over. If I'm the Tampa Bay Bucs coming into this game, though, I'm really worried about the duo of Jackson Smith-Njigba and Cooper Kupp because the injuries that they have. Jamel Dean with the hip issue he's dealing with. Benjamin Morrison re-aggravating a hamstring issue that left him out of most of training camp. Those are your top two outside corners. Zion McCollum, their number 3 guy, is dealing with a thumb injury. Now, he was a limited participant today, but he's not healthy, and he's had an up-and-down season. Teams have been picking on him a little bit. And Jacob Parrish, a third-round pick out of Kansas State, he's been their primary slot guy, and he's had his rookie struggles here in the early stages of the season. I could see Cooper Kupp being a real handful for Jacob Parrish in this game because of his limited experience in the NFL in the slot and going up against such a savvy route runner like Cooper Kupp. And again, he's had some issues in the early stage of the season. He's given up some big plays. I think Cooper Kupp is due for one of those vintage Cooper Kupp games. And when you're dealing with the injuries they've got on the outside, they might be trying to do extra bracket coverage on Jackson Smith-Njigba to help out their outside corners. That just opens things up and puts the slot corners on an island against Seattle's receivers. So JSN, every game is a threat. We know that. But I think Cooper Kupp in this game, I really like this matchup for him, especially with the fact that Tampa Bay is going to be aggressive. They're going to send blitzers. If Sam Darnold gets the ball out quick to Cooper Kupp, this can be a game like Pittsburgh where they were able to get quite a bit of yards after the catch, and Kupp was a big part of that.
He was. And for a lot of the reasons that you just kind of talked about, I think that Cooper Kupp could have a splashy performance in this game. I'm a big fan of Zion McCollum. I think that he is one of the more underrated corners in the league. I think that Jamel Dean is also very much a quality player. I expect both of them to be on the field for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But I do think that it's likely to be the rookie Jacob Parrish, who's going to be lining up primarily out of the slot. I do expect to see an awful lot of Cooper Kupp in that way. And I think this is going to be one of those games you're going to see Kupp be able to catch the ball, do his little dip of the shoulder, and keep those legs driving. And one of the things that was a question mark about Parrish and his tape at Kansas State is 181 pounds, he just doesn't have enough girth to be able to kind of take down guys that have a great deal of leg drive. So I would not be surprised at all. Just as you said, Corbin, that Cooper Kupp is able to kind of catch maybe one of those short intermediate kind of passes and be able to kind of dip underneath the would-be tackler and then be able to kind of create some yardage after the catch. I'm calling it right now. Cooper Kupp gets his first touchdown with the Seahawks in this game.
There you have it. The prognosticator himself. We'll see if Rob Rang is right on that one. But if he is, the Rangini is going to be boasting next week about his call. But there you have it. Cooper Kupp getting his first touchdown against the Buccaneers. When we come back, we're going to shift the focus over to the Seahawks defense going up against a banged-up Buccaneers offense. Don't go away. You're listening to Matchup Wednesday here on Locked On Seahawks. The NFL season's officially here. We are in week 5. FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Player props such as how many touchdowns Sam Darnold will throw against the Buccaneers, building a same-game parlay with multiple prop bets from week 5, or just jumping into the live action as it unfolds. It makes every game more thrilling, whether you're watching your team or you're just keeping an eye and monitoring on things with your fantasy lineup. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to your Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download a FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Most people can't name their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's a 401k, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving a lot of money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together into a clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. Managing money with your partner is now smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off the first year at monarchmoney.com with the code LOCKEDONNFL. Welcome back to Matchup Wednesday here on Locked On Seahawks. This is your host, Corbin Smith. He's Rob Rang. A special thanks to all the 12s who are tuning in, and thank you, as always, for making Locked On Seahawks your first listen 5 days a week. We greatly appreciate it. Seahawks and Buccaneers, clash of 3-1 teams, ready to take place on Sunday afternoon at Lumen Field, and we are diving into all the key matchups to watch, now shifting to the Seahawks on the defensive side of the football, going up against a Tampa Bay offense that actually has been somewhat grounded this year. They have found ways to win games in the fourth quarter because of Baker Mayfield's magic. They've had good running game with Bucky Irving. We don't know if he's going to be playing this week or not. Rachaad White's given them a boost as their number 2 guy. But this is an offense that's been banged up. They're actually 17th in scoring right now. So they've been right in the middle of the pack. But don't let that fool you, even with some of the injuries they are dealing with, particularly when you're talking about Seattle's injuries in the secondary, Devon Witherspoon at the cornerback spot. You need all hands on deck, and you better hope that Spoon is good to go for Sunday, because Emeka Egbuka has been, to me, the favorite to win Rookie of the Year here early in the season. He has been phenomenal leading the charge for Tampa Bay, especially with the injuries they've had at that receiver spot. And Chris Godwin is still Chris Godwin, and he's starting to get his legs back underneath him. I assume that Sterling Shepard will play this week. This is still a formidable receiving core led by Egbuka to go up against a secondary that is a little bit banged up still for the Seattle Seahawks. And I think this is the matchup that could dictate how the Buccaneers are able to get things going on offense. If they can throw the ball downfield and Mayfield can get some shot plays, it's going to make it easier for Tampa Bay to come in and get that win at Lumen Field.
Yeah, no question about it. Egbuka has been terrific. We talked about before. This is the Stillicum High product. Of course, had an illustrious career at Ohio State, and so he is just as as ready out of the box as you can be. Of course, he is basically leading Tampa Bay in every conceivable receiving category, including 4 touchdowns in 4 games to kick off his NFL career, Corbin. So I agree. I think that he is right now the favorite to be the offensive rookie of the year. It's going to be interesting to see who Seattle matches up against him. If Devon Witherspoon is healthy, then I think that makes some sense. There is going to be some familiarity there based off of the fact that they both were playing for traditional Big Ten teams, of course, earlier in their college careers. So that would make some sense. Of course, Rick Woolen has been in and out of the doghouse with the Seahawks, but I love his length and speed combination and what he might be able to offer the Seahawks as well. And we all know that Josh Jobe has been a very consistent player as well. So regardless of who is, it could even be Darian Kendrick, if they're going to move Egbuka into the slot position, a lot. So I do think that this is a matchup that is one that very much bears watching, because as you said, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have, arguably the best receiving core in the NFL, at least when Mike Evans is healthy. Again, he is not going to be able to play in this football game. That limits some of the big playability over the top for Tampa Bay. But at the same time, Baker Mayfield is, as you said, a magician, and his ability to sprinkle the ball all over the field, I think, is going to really make this a very entertaining game in so many different ways, and also one that, again, if the Seahawks are unable to slow down Tampa Bay's prolific passing attack, one that the Seahawks could lose.
But there is a way the Seahawks can slow this down without relying too much on their secondary, and that particularly boils down to the edge rush on one side. Charlie Heck taking over for Luke Gedeke, who is out. He's on injured reserve right now at right tackle. Heck has given up 18 pressures in roughly 2.5 games. He has been getting worked on the outside. Philadelphia had a field day against him last week. He was signed to be a swing tackle, not a starter, and they've had to throw him into the lineup because of Gedeke's injury. So Charlie Heck on that side, it just feels like Boye Mafe. He has been so close to getting sacks 4 or 5 times, and he just can't quite get there. It's not that he's playing poor football. He's just not had the luck in his way. This is a game that I think you get him matched up, and Uchenna Nwosu as well, matched up against Charlie Heck. I think that you can collapse that pocket and create a lot of issues for Baker Mayfield, who, oh, by the way, again, he's on the injury report with 2 injuries. He's been taking a beating the last few weeks. If Seattle can take advantage of having backup offensive linemen in at multiple spots, including that right tackle position, I think off the edge, Seattle can work Derek Hall in there as well. All three of those guys are going to get reps going against Charlie Heck. I think this is a matchup that could swing the tide in Seattle's favor if they are able to force Tampa Bay into a situation where they have to keep an extra guy in to try to chip, and it opens things up for their interior guys, because I think Seattle could have an advantage in there with the injuries to Cody Mock and company in the inside for Tampa Bay. But it starts with that edge group getting after Baker Mayfield, and he is still a QB that will throw some picks. And I think if you can get him rattled and get some pressure on him, that you can absolutely coax some turnovers out of him, particularly in a road game.
Yeah, Baker Mayfield will throw some picks, as you said. He also will hold the ball a little bit longer, because he does have kind of that kind of magic ability about him. So he likes to kind of move around in the pocket, and that's going to give, I think, Boye Mafe, to your point, Corbin, a little bit more of an opportunity to be able to use that speed rush to beat Charlie Heck off the ball, and then actually be able to kind of redirect if the quarterback steps up into the pocket, into the waiting arms of, say, a Leonard Williams or a Byron Murphy II. That's where I think the Boye Mafe is going to perhaps get not one, but maybe two or even more sacks in this football game. I really think that is a matchup that Seattle should be able to exploit. I have no doubt in my mind that Boye Mafe is going to beat Charlie Heck with his speed rush. I think it's absolutely critical that the 12s bring the noise in this football game to kind of help that pass rush as well. And then, oh, by the way, considering the fact that this is, a game here between the Seahawks and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers wearing their classic uniforms, how appropriate is it? Charlie Heck, the son of former Seahawk first-round pick Andy Heck, who used to wear the original silver helmets and silver uniforms with that royal blue. I hate to kind of, kick a former Seahawk first-round pick here, but the current offensive line coach for the Kansas City Chiefs, Andy Heck, his son, again, Charlie Heck, I think is going to be a player that the Seahawks should be able to victimize as much as Andy Heck at times was victimized as a member of the Seattle Seahawks years ago.
And maybe the other matchup that could have the ability to swing this one, because we just talked about Baker Mayfield and the gunslinger mentality, and for the most part, it benefits his game. And I think he's refined it enough that he has really been able to find his sweet spot in Tampa Bay. He has been a top 10 quarterback with the Bucs, gets the ball and he slings it all over the place, but he's completing under 60% of his passes this year. And again, he has been a guy in the past that he will throw up those prayer balls. He will throw it into congestion because he is cocky about his arm. Like, he believes in his arm as much as any QB in the league. And a lot of times it works out for him. But I look at Seattle's safety group. I think Julian Love's good to go. Julian Love's going to play. I think Nicky Muori is back in the lineup this week. And Kobe Bryant has a couple of interceptions already. Now, please hold on to the ball after you intercept it. But these safeties that the Seahawks have, D'Anthony Bell will get some work in there as well. I look at those players going up against Baker Mayfield as the matchup to really watch that maybe is under the radar here because of Baker Mayfield's willingness to hang in the pocket and try to get those downfield routes, those deep digs, the crossers, post routes, to get those to open up. He's going to take his shots at the safeties. It is going to be on the safeties to be able to maintain their coverage and be able to jump routes and bait him to an extent. The really good teams have been able to do that at times to Baker Mayfield, bait him into making a throw that he thinks is open with his arm strength and his arm talent and make that an illusion and then get picks. I look at the safety group and think that this is going to be a matchup. If you're looking at who can get to Baker Mayfield, you want him to get rattled with your pass rush, but the safeties, that's the position group that I could see having an impact, creating turnovers in this one, just because of the style Mayfield is and his ability to attack downfield in the middle of the field. That has always been a big part of his game.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that he is going to try to attack down the middle. That's going to create some opportunities for a Julian Love or Kobe Bryant to be able to kind of pad their individual statistics. I also love the fact that you mentioned Nicky Muori. I'm just fascinated to see how Seattle is going to employ him. Again, without Mike Evans on the field, I think that Baker Mayfield is going to have to look elsewhere. I'm curious to see if he really tries to throw the ball a lot in Chris Godwin's area. Godwin had 10 targets a week ago. He only caught 3 of those passes. And so I am very curious to see if Seattle is able to kind of shrink the field a little bit and allow a player like a Nicky Manwari to kind of play a little bit of a rover kind of a spot and basically just spy on Tampa Bay's running backs as well as their tight end. Cade Otton, another former University of Washington player, I think that he has an opportunity to have kind of a splashy return to the Seattle area. And then again, whether it be Bucky Irving or Rachaad White, both are very talented receivers out of the backfield. So whether it be Baker Mayfield trying to throw over the top or resorting to some of those dink or dunk passes, I do think that Seattle's safeties are going to be absolutely critical to slowing down Tampa Bay's passing offense.
As always, you can follow me on X and Blue Sky at Corbin Smith NFL. You can follow Rob at Rob Rang. Make sure to subscribe to Locked On Seahawks on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast to make sure you don't miss a single episode. Coming up tomorrow, it's Crossover Thursday. I'll be teaming up with James Yarko of Locked On Bucs as we dive deeper into this upcoming matchup at Lumen Field between a pair of 3-1 contenders in the NFC. You won't want to miss that. Show will be coming up early on Thursday morning at 8 a.m. Pacific time. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and thanks for watching. Go Hawks.